Hello, everyone. I'm Karen Hutton, and welcome to my Inspiration for Photographers Friday Live, which is actually happening on a Thursday. How's that for a nice long intro? So, welcome. I see everybody popping in here. I'm so excited because today I have, so this month, it being the holiday month, December, but this is wonderful any time of the year. But I just figured, man, it's been a year, right? So this month I'm having friends over and we're doing holiday cheer and we're doing inspiration and we're just talking about all kinds of things, inside, outside, photography, life, philosophy. I don't even know where we're going today. But my friend, the awesome, the absolutely vivacious Bryan Minear is here today. We are both Fujifilm ex-photographers, which is a professional partner of Fujifilm. We both shoot for them. And but he is a designer, he's a photographer, he is a philosopher. He's just one of my favorite people, and I'm so stoked that he's here today, or he will be momentarily, and we're gonna just get into it. I threw out some topics to him, and he said, they all sound good. Let's just see where the universe takes us. So here we go. And of course, we're going to welcome questions. We're going to share where you can find each of us. He is on Instagram at Bryan Minear. In fact, I should probably ask him to text his handle and his website so I could pin it into here. So anyway, for the rest of the month, next week, just so you know, Rick Salmon will be here. And I got some inquiries out to a couple other friends who are kind of busy. We're redoing our schedule just a little bit to accommodate their schedules, which is what happened this week. Normally we do this on Fridays. But we shift the day if we need to. So Rick Salmon will be on Friday, and then I'll be announcing other people. We just kind of want to do the warm holiday fuzzies because we can and we should and we want to, and that's the way that is. So I'm just watching. Hi guys, why don't you tell me where you're hailing from today? I know we usually have an international group, so I'm curious to know where y'all are from. It's always so much fun. Oh my God. Guess who's coming into the live now? Oh my God. Here he comes. So super stoked. You're going to love him. Those of you who don't know Bryan, you're in for a treat. That's all I can say. There he is.
Hello.
Hello. How are you, my darling?
I'm good. Sorry, I had a work call that ran a little long.
You what?
I had a work call that
you
ran
did?
long. Yeah.
What's the deal? What's up with that? Work?
I know.
What the hell? I don't get that. So I was just extolling your virtues. You're a photographer, you're a designer, you're an artist, you're a dad, you're a businessman, you're just incredible. So many things.
Definitely not a businessman. Let's leave that one out, because I am the worst. If I was a businessman, I might actually be successful.
I think you are successful. We already have a question. So you want to jump into Q&A? You want to wrap a little bit?
Bring it on. Yeah.
All right. So we got a question right off the top, because see, Bryan, I actually want to hear this too, which is why I jumped on this question. When was the first time you sold an NFT? And then while you're at it, why don't you explain a little bit about what NFT is and how you're involved in just that stuff?
Oh man, this is such a rabbit hole.
I know.
And especially if we want to get to I'll be simple, because I spent the better part of December and January learning about NFTs. I spent months.
You mean last year?
Yeah, December of 2020 through January of 2020. Listening when I don't think Clubhouse is a thing anymore, but when Clubhouse first emerged, I was
right
in Clubhouse rooms, just my wife would yell at me all the time because I always had an AirPod in and I was listening to a Clubhouse room, just kind of sponging all this information, trying to figure it out. So I preface by saying that because there's no way I could explain to you everything about NFT stuff in the short time that we have here.
Right.
But basically,
Maybe if people are interested, maybe we do another live where we just talk about it.
yeah, that'd be cool. I mean,
That'd be
to,
cool.
to put it simply, is it's kind of like this new that it's like the new thing, and it's
Hmm.
coming whether you like it or not. It's going to be, it's like the future is digital art, and NFTs is a way of kind of, I don't know how deep we want to go into this. It's just a big thing, and it's cool. It's awesome. There are like a lot of people voice ecological like concerns, energy concerns. There's some valid points to be made there. I offset all of there are some really cool apps that let me input my crypto wallet address that reads like all the transactions I've ever made and lets me buy carbon offsets of everything
Oh,
that I've ever. So that's kind of a nice way to, you know, kind of give back a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It's just this cool. It's like I said, it's a rabbit hole. It's just a cool new way. It's like selling digital prints, and it's very all encompassing and fun. But I've had a lot of friends that are, you know, have been very successful in the NFT world. So it's definitely something I would say look into because it's coming. It's still, everybody likes to say we're still very early, and it's only going to be, you know, it's going to grow and grow and grow. But
I think
yeah,
Trey Ratcliffe has put a bunch of stuff out about it too.
yeah, I think
So
he's sold a couple collections. I don't know. I haven't really followed much of his journey because I've been knee deep in my own stuff. But yeah, it's definitely a fun world, and I think one of the things that I love the most about it is that I know both you and I are like super big on community, and
yeah.
the NFT community. I think it reminds me a lot of kind of more the early days of Instagram when Instagram was still about community, because they kind of are not anymore. But it's much like that in that it everybody just comes together. Everybody wants to celebrate victories. We all want to share. I think the whole idea behind anything crypto, anything blockchain, anything NFTs is information is just open source. Everybody's trying to just build the future together and build a better
Hmm.
future. And I think, you know, I've been more inspired by different, you know, 3D artists, traditional painter, you know, all different kinds, not just photography, but all different kinds of art. So inspired in the last like 9 to 12 months, just way more inspired than I probably have in the lifetime I've spent on Instagram. So I think if anything
Wow.
is great about the world of NFTs, is that it's just an amazing community.
Yeah, through some of the stuff you've posted, I kind of dug into a few people that know you and their work, and it's like a whole other world. But I'm
Yeah.
sort of I'm NFT curious, but I also feel daunted by the whole
I'm telling
thing.
you.
But
Well, it's weird because, you know, like a lot of people look at me because I've been doing it for so long. I was DMing with a friend of mine who I made, like another photographer friend who's amazing. His name's Jared. He we were talking, and both of us were just like, we don't know what the heck we're doing. Like, we've been doing this for like a year, still have no idea what we're doing. Just kind of taking things as they come. Like, there's no, if somebody tells you that they're an expert and they want to tell you about, just run away, run the opposite direction, because there are no
yeah.
experts. Like, where everybody's just kind of figuring it out together. So
Hold on one second. I'm like, I was also meant to say I'm in my sort of like my studio with I wanted to be in my forest today.
mm-hmm.
This backdrop is made by Anyvoo, ANYVOO.com. I'm not an affiliate or anything. I just think it's the craziest, most awesome product. This is one of my images, and it's a fabric. It just zips over this simple frame. It's a really cool backdrop. But I felt
Yeah,
like
that's
just sort
awesome.
of being in this environment. So sadly, I have my computer in front of me, and for just a second there had to multitask. And I'm done with that now because NFT, it intimidates me completely. But now, but watching you, I'm kind of like, all right, I'm kind of curious now. But
It's
the
just, I
question was,
mean,
so
real quick, let me add one thing.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
the kind of thing that you just like, even if you think there's no way I'm ever going to do that,
yeah,
just like learn a little bit about it, do a little research, just because
yeah,
you never know where it's going to go, you know?
yeah. Dipping, dipping my toe in the water is the first step, and you can just go dip, and there's so much out there. Why not be creative and, so, and try things, because you don't have to jump in with, all the way. You can just
Right.
go, well, what's that about? And then go from there. See, I'm always like really big on you know, I say finding your purpose or living your purpose, but my point is that the real thing is going by your own guidance, going by your own, inner compass, your own, like, what do I love? And
Yeah.
if you dip a toe into NFT and you love it, take the next step and just see something might unfold. But when was the first time you sold one?
I sold my first one, I believe, was either at the very end of February or at the very beginning of March. It was
So
like of
you
this
dug
year.
in. Wow. So you dug in December and January and you sold one by
Hmm.
February or March.
Well, thankfully, and again, going back to the community, like thankfully I because so basically anything NFTs happens on Twitter. Like Twitter is the place for NFTs. That's where the community
Really? I
lives.
didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yep. So if you, I mean, like I posted a couple stories about NFTs on Instagram and it was just like crickets, like nobody cared. But yeah, Twitter is definitely where the community is. And so thankfully, because of that community, I had people helping me share when I finally, minted my first NFT, and I had people share, and somebody who is also a photographer. He's a primarily like a bird photographer,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he had my first mint was actually this. I kind of like I had taken a time lapse at Mono Lake in California, and
Mm-hmm.
I did a day to night time lapse, and so I'd made this loop of like kind of going back and forth from day to night from Mono Lake. And he had been to Mono Lake. He kind of had a personal connection there, so he bid on it. He bought it, and we've connected over that. Like we're friends. We've been friends ever since. He's bought several of
Wow.
my pieces. I bought some stuff from him. Like so, yeah, it's been a cool ride. But
Do
I
you
think
think,
I was lucky that it sold, rather quickly.
wow, that is so freaking cool. So I keep hearing and seeing a lot of, whether, however it's created, whether it's time lapse or some other form of moving imagery. I see a lot more of that on NFT than still photography. But do you see both?
It's coming around. I think in the beginning, like a lot of the conversations that were happening in the beginning, like I said on Clubhouse early on, were like, can photographers even like can we even sell? There was this even a thing? Because it was very dominated by 3D art, digital art,
Right,
animation, that kind of stuff.
right.
Everybody, I'm sure even if you haven't heard of an NFT, somebody's heard of Beeple, like this crazy artist who sold like $60 million worth of NFT stuff at Christie's or Sotheby's or whatever. It's insane. But yeah, so I think now, like because of the photography community, we kind of all came together trying to push it forward. Now stills are definitely a thing. Like it's found its footing and it's kind of moving forward. Has been since I would say since midsummer. You know,
So it's really terraforming before us.
yeah, yeah, it really is. I
Wow.
mean, it's all happening right now, and I think the crazy thing, and I've heard a lot of people compare it to like the dot com, thing that happened early on. This whole like Web 3.0 blockchain technology. It's kind of the same thing, except technology now is like just moving so fast. Every day there's a new project or somebody that's pushing this envelope forward. I have a photographer friend. Some of you might follow him. His name's Ben Strauss. Amazing landscape photographer. He's also like a satellite engineer, works for NASA stuff. He's crazy smart. But he has a developer friend, and him and his developer friend worked on a way to make NFTs. He took basically he's taken, I think, 3 images now and made still images that change with the time of day, the time of month. So like as depending on where you're viewing it from, if you go look at his NFT right now, depending on where you are, like for me, it would be an afternoon sky and the light hitting the mountain would be afternoon. Nighttime, it would be stars, So he's worked with these, everything NFT is based in these smart contracts, which is just code. It's basically telling, it interacts between the blockchain and the NFT. You don't really have to know that stuff as an artist, but like you can utilize that in cool ways to make something completely different and push the envelope forward, which I think is probably the most exciting part of the whole NFT thing is, just coming in and having an idea and seeing it through and trying to do something that nobody's done before.
Wow. So your friend who's doing that with the different times a day, is it the same image different times a day or different images?
Yes. So he took a photo. He's also a fantastic post processor. So like
Yeah.
he took a photo, and one of his photos he took and he, dodged and burned. So the light changes on the foreground, and then also different skies depending on it. I think it's sunrise, midday, sunset, nighttime. So there's
Yeah.
4 changes, and it kind of morphs between those. And then the one he just released actually changes. It has a moon in it, and the moon phase changes throughout the month as well. Yeah.
Wow.
So he took it a step further with that one. But it's really
So
cool.
as an artist, do you imagine it then as being kind of a even if you're creating an image, you're always trying to think of the creative part of it is thinking of ways of making it move one way or another.
I mean, I gave that as an example because I think it's a really cool example. It's like one of my favorite examples of somebody doing something totally different. But I don't.
Well, because those are still images, but then it puts it together in a way.
Yeah. They don't necessarily, they don't move individually. It just changes, throughout the course of the day. So yeah, I don't think there was definitely a point where as photographers, we were all like back in, like March. I mean, like I said, my first NFT was a time lapse. Like it had motion to it, and music. I actually composed the music for it. But like,
you compose music too? I didn't know that.
Not well.
What the hell?
I'm like a musician in a past life, and I kind of tapped into that a little bit because, again, it's all about just having fun and trying to do something different.
Yeah.
But I think there was this misconception at first that we're like, well, if we want to have success, we need to add motion or animation or do something.
Right.
And there were people that did that and found success. But I think now it's matured. There are collectors now that value just still photography. So I use Ben's stuff as a cool example of what's possible, but like you don't have to think in terms of like, oh, I have to do this grand epic thing, in order to make a splash. Like, right.
When collectors collect a digital image, what are they doing with it? Like, what's its end? Where does it live?
Well, I think that's another. That's another. There are a lot of digital displays now that are coming around that will display the contents of your wallet, which are pretty cool. So there are a lot of people that are doing that, but I think again we're still kind of in the infancy of seeing. I have a friend who is a collector who is working on launching a platform this month that displays NFT collections, and he's working on like an Apple TV app to where you could view your stuff on an Apple TV or on Chromecast or whatever. So I think there's going to be ways where, you'll be able to utilize that. But I think, a lot of the even more forward thinking people are thinking in terms of like being able to, there are a lot of digital online spaces now, digital galleries where you can walk through a gallery in a 3D space. And there are a lot of people that are thinking forward in that way, as to maybe we're going in that direction where we're going to spend a lot more time in this virtual world,
Yeah, I actually saw a gallery. I can't remember the name of it right now, but someone had an exhibition in this gallery. So I went to see what the gallery was, and it was virtual. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't know about that. So my brain was like, brr.
It's definitely crazy. Yeah.
It is really crazy. But why not? It's really cool too. So just creatively speaking, thank you. I didn't expect us to jump into that, but that question kind of took us down that rabbit hole.
It's all good.
If people are interested, you can DM one of us, either one of us. So you're at Bryan Minear on everywhere, right?
Everywhere. Yep.
Yeah. And Bryan is Bryan and Minear is Minear.
Yep, that's me.
So so go follow him. And for those of you who maybe are hearing this that don't know me, I'm Karen Hutton. I am at Karen Hutton everywhere, and it's KarenHutton. That's me. So God, now from there, oh gosh, I'm always trying to. So the thing about Bryan is, through Fujifilm, we do various projects, and they're always really fun and creative, and aimed at, more community involvement, which we both love. And I'm always trying to cook up projects where we get to do it together. So
Yes.
I'm super stoked to at least get to do an Instagram live with you. But consequently, my brain is going, what can we talk about? So we can talk about a lot. So, somebody says, the more I hear Bryan talk about NFTs, the more intimidated I am by it. I hear you. I hear you on that, which
Oh,
is
that's
why,
Drew. I love
yeah.
Drew. Drew's my buddy.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, then there you go. That's how Drew, I'm in your court, honestly. But at the same time, if I ever get done with projects that I have sitting on top of me right now, I want
Yep.
to look into it too.
That's
Because
my
I'm
whole
also,
issue right now is I have a million ideas and no time
Mhm.
to pursue them.
Right. And I have not only photography, but this whole line of digital art that I do that I'm like,
Mhm.
oh my God, we could do something with that there. I need to live to be 150. I'm almost there. But some days I feel like that anyway. Or have mini me's. I don't know which.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of ideas. So you get to do this week because you thought, because you had to work tomorrow, got a gig, which is, hello
Yes.
freelance world. Well, you're not a freelancer, but you do get gigs.
I do some
Um,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, me too. So we moved it over to Thursday for that reason, but then you weren't going to be able to do that. Why? Because you had, but so my bottom line is you're home with your son, which is where I want to go, which
Yep.
is you're a dad and you do
Yep.
all this art and you do the most amazing things with your son. And I just wanted you to talk a bit about that because that's not everybody's path.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I feel like it's interesting because like when I always wanted to have kids, and then my wife and I got married. We had this expectation that we were going to have kids, but then we were like, well, we put it off for a little while. We wanted to enjoy like just being married for a little while and figure that out first, not rush into
Yeah.
anything. So right around the time when the Fujifilm ambassador thing popped up, my career, whatever that is, landscape photography, that was kind of growing. That's right when we got pregnant. And it's like, so I had
Oh, of
to,
course.
yeah, so I had to like shut down a few things, and I probably didn't go the trajectory that I would have gone had we not had one, but we did. And then so
Uh-huh.
that kind of changed everything. And I remember specifically being in New York City for, I was like a Fujifilm photo walk, and I met up with somebody, a friend, and he said, he was just joking, but it was like one of those jokes that you kind of take to heart. And he was like, man, Miles wasn't born yet, but he was like, man, you're having a kid. Like, that's kind of like the end of the end of your life, the end of fun for you, So
Oh,
I was kind of like, but because that's kind of how I was feeling inside. I was kind of having some misgivings about it, and I was thinking, crap, was this a mistake? So all that to say,
which is an incredibly honest thing to say that a lot of
yeah,
parents are afraid to say. So I
sure,
think that's,
yeah, I'm an open book. Like I'm not gonna
yeah,
sugarcoat anything, right?
I know that, but I just think it's really cool. But
Yeah. So I guess kind of subconsciously since then, I mean, it's been life changing for me in a good way, in the best of ways. It's pushed me to want to be a better person in ways that I didn't really know was possible. So, yeah, I think as he's kind of grown up and I see our shared interests, with stuff, and I'm basically, and I'll try to articulate this to you. I've never really been able to talk about it well before, but basically, it's kind of blown my world open, fatherhood, because I get to see him experiencing things that I know I experienced at one point, whether it's a movie or certain type of music or whatever it is.
right.
But I don't remember that. So I'm like re-experiencing it through him with like this weird fatherhood vision. And it's like blown my world open for like creativity and stuff, because it's like I'm thinking now like, oh, if I cultivate that in him, like what, how much further could he get, or so all these things have kind of erupted into, you know what's become this project. You can't really see it. I have a photo behind me here. I'll try to turn here.
Yeah.
This guy right here. So like I've
Yep.
started this project, shooting this project of him in this astronaut costume that we got for him for Halloween. And kind of the whole concept, I titled it Traveler, because it's kind of like we're all just like travelers through existence, whatever that is, right?
Right.
And you know, you have just this infinite potential in any direction. And so yeah, there's just something with this, like the creativity, fatherhood, seeing him, wanting to like inspire him, I'm being inspired by him.
Oh,
That's just
so
amazing. And so I wanted to both document that in a way that spoke my visual language, which is landscape photography. So seeing him in these kind of big desolate locations, or like out of focus with the moon, like your future is like right there, but
oh,
like everything around you is totally murky. Yeah, I don't know.
I
It's
love
just
it.
another rabbit hole.
It's life is full of rabbit holes. What I just love so much about it, and that I see in particularly that, in your work generally, but it's been really fascinating to watch the work with Miles over the last couple of years since I've known you. Is I've seen that jump in vision and creativity, and I mean, you were already that person, but it took Miles to kind of unlock it in a way.
Yeah.
And now you got all the permission. So I have reflected. I've reflected. I mean, I never told you this, but it made me really think about moments that like uncork you. Now, I talk about awe a lot because awe is one of those. It's like the 11th emotion. That's one of the ways they describe it, and it's one of those things that doesn't always result in, oh, it's everything is like sunshine and unicorns. It can,
Yeah.
but as with you, Miles is almost like the embodiment of this like awe, because you were terrified. It cracked your world open. It opened your mind. It made you feel smaller in a way that transcended everything. And as a result, this greater vision happened. And that is pretty much the definition of awe. And he's like your little nugget of awe every single day. And I see it reflected in your work, not only with him, but even in this last gig you did, the one with OnStar. Because reason it came up is I was in Zion right after you. And so it was really fun to see your images. And that last one with the lights on the Highway 9 before the tunnel.
Oh yeah,
Holy crap. I mean, that's a transcendent image, and a lot of your stuff is. And so if I didn't know you, well, I mean, even knowing you, I was like, where is that coming from? Because
yeah.
that's more than a good image. It's a good image, but and you always do good images, but more and more in your work I'm seeing this sort of transcendent quality to it. And I just think it's really interesting, and to me it kind of uncorked with Miles.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. And first off, thank you. Like, I hate being showered with compliments because I'm from the
Oh,
Midwest, and
get used to it.
we apologize for everything.
Good.
Um,
Yeah, it's okay. I do too. But whatever.
but yeah, you're right. Like, I hadn't really thought about it. But I think both things have been growing. So, I mean, he's 5 now. You know, so the past 5, I mean, obviously, like the first couple years, you're just like spinning and trying to keep your head above the water. But I think
Yeah.
once we figured parenthood out, and once we figured out Miles just said Bryan Minear is cheat codes. I feel like once you figure out kind of the cheat codes to get by in parenthood, then it like finally you can go outside of just trying to keep him alive, and you can have fun and you can experiment. And so I think once he hit around 3 to 4, you know, that's when he started. I mean, gosh, I can't even. I might cry now. The first time that he ever like, I was running out the door because I frequently run out the door to like check on the moon, and I run out the door to check on the moon, and I saw that it was awesome, and so I like ran to grab my bag, and I'm like running out the door. He's like, Dad, wait, and he ran and he grabbed his little X100F that I've given him that's like his camera, and he ran and grabbed it. He's like, I'm coming too. And so like
Oh my
that, I feel
God.
like in that moment, it's like, holy crap, like he sees me and he like wants to do what I do. And so that just put it even that much further. So I think, yeah, now that I think a big part of it is he has this consciousness. He is a person now. Like I have conversations with him, which is weird. Having it's like you have a dog for forever and you're always talking to it, but it never talks back. Well, eventually
Right.
the kids talk back.
Yeah.
And so now I would say over the past, like really this year, like 2021 has, well, I'll combine 2020 because of the pandemic and everything that happened there and just like
Yeah.
facing mortality, facing all that stuff. And then coming into 2021, it makes me just, yeah, want to leave behind some sort of legacy. It makes me want to be better than I ever wanted for myself because I want him to think I'm cool, or I want him to be able to say, oh, look at something my dad did. You know what I mean? So I think it's definitely, it's, yeah, it's
Well,
definitely,
it's huge. It's like legacy, because you're like, I've been having the legacy conversation, trying, all the teaching I've done, and finding your
mhm,
artistic voice and retreats and all that stuff is all about legacy. But the reason is you can use the idea of just like most of what the questions are. I'm going to track this right back to you, but I'm going to move it back over here for a second, because when I first started, I've taught everything I've ever done for 45 years.
mhm,
I stopped teaching because I got a little burned out. The last thing I was coaching was voice for 25 years and to TV news broadcasters. And but I taught figure skating and horseback riding and, voice and aerobic. I mean, it doesn't matter. Everything I've ever done, I taught. So I said, whoa, Seabiscuit, I want to be, have this artistic drive. Why? I don't know. But I was like, I think it's important to create art. So I had been doing things like, I was photographing and everything like that. And I just said, I am not going to teach photography. But if I do, because knowing my history, if I end up teaching photography, it's going to be on my terms. And it's going
yeah,
to be what I think is important, not what somebody else thinks they want to learn. Because that's so boring. And part of me just like dies when I have to do that.
mhm,
So I just won't anymore. And so when it started to happen that in social, because at one point I had like 2 million followers and 11 billion views, and I mean, everything changes, so that's not the case anymore. But it was like this massive exposure for a little slice in time, and I started to get a lot of questions. How do you do it? How do
mhm,
you do that thing? And I knew what that thing was. It was exactly what you're talking about, but not necessarily thinking about until you had your son, which is, and the cool thing about photography is that it's such a quantum art, in the sense that we work with light and time. And I seem to
mhm,
say this on every single live, but I think it's important because nowadays people feel so powerless, and like, there's a lot of weird stuff happening in the world and it all feels bigger. But to remember that we have a soul and we have a connection to spirit and light, that we work with freaking light.
mhm,
So when we fully, and like when you have a kid, it forces you into this fully, inhabiting the moment with all of it, right? So
mhm,
you thought for a minute ago you might cry when he wanted to go with you. You were just this feeling, right?
mhm,
When you embed whatever triggers that for you into your work, then it becomes an exponential expression of it.
mhm,
And I think as artists, we stand in a unique position to make a difference in the world in that way. If we bring that, and elevate people and uplift people and talk about it and realize the power that we have that no one else has, as humans. But as artists, we almost have an imperative. We've almost been asked to hold that flame and to share it through our work, but also through our words, so that other people understand the power they have and that they can create something amazing. And that's really why I decided to do this series, and then decided to up it by inviting my friends over who work the same way. And sure, we talk about gear sometimes, which we'll do in a second, but you know, Ansel Adams said it best. It's the 12 inches behind the camera that makes the difference, as
yep,
in here. And
yep,
so I just think it's worth saying. I seem to say it a lot, but it was what I based all of my teaching on, putting people into experiences and places and circumstances that freed their mind, freed their soul, so that that thing would happen, and they'd realize, holy crap, there's this whole other thing that can happen where you've got your little bundle of it in a 5-year-old, which, what a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, I think too, a
Thanks,
lot, I
Miles.
mean, oh, what did he say? Oh yeah, perfectly said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how I could possibly top that. I'll add to it in that I think it's only something that I feel like I've tapped into more recently, but one of the things that when I'm teaching, I'm usually focusing, because it's like you are a master, so I feel like you can kind of teach vision in a way. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. What I do is I focus more on, look, if you can figure out your camera, figure out the stupid settings and what you need to do so that it's here, and like you can throw that away. You don't even need to think about it. It just happens when you become one with your camera.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can like invite the rest in. You can invite the emotion, you can invite and then you can start trying to figure out how to, not export, but like let that flow through you into your work. But I feel like it's hard to have a vision and execute a vision and push into that when you're stuck on I don't know what shutter speed to use right now. You know what I mean? Like that stuff has to become second nature.
Yeah, exactly. And it, what was I going to say? There's a thing in teaching that thing that it's really, I had to not talk about gear for a long time. Like, to even get the conversation, I want to say publicly, but even to get the conversation going, I became the person who would not talk about settings and would not talk about gear. I would say, so I've been shooting the Fujifilm now for about 6 years. And the reason I use Fujifilm is, for me personally, it took that ability that I have and the desire I had, knowing what I wanted to create, to another level just because of the gear. So inspiration can come in many ways. It can come in a 5-year-old child. It can come through your gear. It can come through a sunset. It doesn't matter. It comes through so many things because we're that kind of being that's hardwired to awe, to creation, to amazing things. We have souls. And so, but one of the things I find in photography that removes you, that kind of, it's almost like when you try to stare at a star, but you can't see it unless you look off to the right or left of it. It's like that, because a lot of people, it's true what you say, that if your gear just becomes second nature, you can do it. And some people can go at it that way, but I started running into a lot of people that got caught in the constant loop of gear settings. They were trying to master it, and every time they got to a certain level of mastery, they felt like they hadn't achieved it, so the bar just kept going up and up and up. So I was like, forget about the gear for a second. What do you want to create? What do you want to feel? What do you feel? And then we'd start in the simplest way, where even if they could just use their phone if they wanted to, because you gotta develop a different channel. It actually doesn't happen it's weird, because it doesn't happen by getting good at your gear. Like, I learned a process because I knew what I wanted to create. So I was like, well, how do I do that thing? Then I would go around till I'd see something that addressed how to do that thing, and I'd learn that. But I didn't learn that first so that I could do that thing. It was the thing that I wanted to do that sort of forced me into, all right, well, then I'll learn this so I can do that. Because otherwise, I don't know, for people like me, otherwise it just becomes this constant right brain, when I say right brain, like logic, it's got to be this good. I'm kind of a perfectionist anyway, and I can get caught up in the details. And I know that's like the monkey mind. And I know that my expansive side learns so much faster and only grabs what it needs. And then I had to trust that, because that's a bit of a leap, and ignore everybody else, because there's so many people out there yapping about, here's how you do this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm on, I don't know where I got on my little soapbox here, but it really is about, painting with a paintbrush of creation more than anything. And if you can find gear or circumstances or light or whatever that helps you create the feeling that you want to feel, that you need to feel, you want to feel, you must feel, then you're on the right track, because then you're all quantum with it, because then the feeling gets embedded through the light into the pixels of your camera, and that's proven in quantum physics. So people
Boom.
used to say she's a good photographer, but she's a little woo, and I'm like, it's quantum physics actually. So call me a quantum physicist, except don't ask me any hard questions, because I'm really not. Okay, somebody has made a really cool comment. I think this is the first time I've actually wanted to be a parent. Hello. I feel like I missed out. Jeepers. The bond that you share with your son is beyond inspiring and heartwarming, Bryan. That's so nice.
No, I think that was my friend Ole who said that. Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I kind of bypassed that in my life. I'm one of those people, and because at the time it was time to have kids, I was just so freaking neurotic, and I was a crazy person, really. I mean, I can't even imagine what I would have created out of where my head was at the time. But when I see you, it's like, man, it's a whole other evolution of human.
Well, I feel like I hit the, hey, speak of the devil, come here, buddy. I feel like I hit the jackpot. So come here. Oh, he just hopped up. So let's introduce
Hi,
him.
Miles.
He can't hear you because I have AirPods. There.
Can you hear now?
Yeah, he can hear now.
Hi, Miles.
Hi.
You don't know me, but I feel like I've known you for 3 years. I know. When I was young, people said stupid stuff like that to me, and I was like, how do I even respond to that? There's really no answer. But it's really lovely to see you. And I love the pictures your daddy takes of you as an astronaut. You're amazing.
He's a pretty good astronaut. All right,
He's a great astronaut. He's going to soar like a magical soul. I just know it because of his parents and his daddy. I don't know your wife, but I know you. And
she's way more awesome than I am. Yeah, she's probably the only reason that he's half as cool as he is. I'm really excited to do my first project with him. Like not like a co-project. Something, you know what I mean?
Oh.
Like eventually, like
yeah.
for him to be like, "Hey, Dad, let's do this." Whatever that is, like that is like that what keeps me wanting to move forward. Like I'm excited to see where that goes, and maybe not. Maybe he'll be like, "Dude, you're lame. You're like stuck in your old ways." But yeah, I think that'd be really cool.
I feel that, I've been a lone ranger all my life, and I'm finding now, I don't know if it's the time or just it's go time for me as a soul or whatever, but I'm finding I want to collaborate and work with like-minded people and create amazing things that are going to, uplift people and raise the light vibration and, the love in the world more and more and more. And I'm just really, I used to feel like such an oddball, but I feel like it's time. It's now. Hi, Annette Biggers. She just said hi. So nice to see her face. She's another love bug out there creating amazing things in the world. So awesome. I just think now's our time. I think we're on. I mean, I think artists have always been the ones that, well, the super stupid, simplistic way to say it is artists have always been the ones that people look to for how to think or what to be or what's going on a certain level, because they've carried the vision, right? So there's been not a moral compass, but there's been I can't think of the word, but there's been the society looks to artists, right, for whatever the thing is, and in the Renaissance especially. But I think now, as so much gets shut down and so much gets, don't say this, don't say that, and we're changing everything. I think artists, especially those of us who deal with light and time, woohoo! I feel like, how did I end up here? But I'm so happy I did. Are in a unique position to just go in between all that and just spread it like butter.
No, that's awesome. I agree. Mm-hmm. And I think bringing it back to the beginning, I think NFTs are probably going to be a big part of that, because it's really kind of, I don't know, I just look at everything up to this point having been, I don't know, I feel like most of social media up to now is just kind of conditioning us to create but how do I even say this? I don't even know if I can say this properly. I just think that, like, let me say it this way. When I was growing up, like when I went to a tiny high school. I graduated with 52 people, middle of nowhere in Ohio,
Wow.
like tiny, tiny, tiny town. I had one choice for foreign language. I took French. That was my only choice. I didn't even have the option to take Spanish. I had like art one, art two, art three, and art four classes. You know what I mean? So like I didn't have like options. I really had to think about what I wanted to do. And like a lot of it was decided for me. I was like on this path to be recruited and maybe play football at an Ivy League school. And I had this autoimmune disease that completely knocked me out. And I was in the hospital for 4 months and I lost like all of my ability to play football and had to then turn around and finish my senior year of high school and think like, what the heck am I going to do? I had this amazing art teacher at the time who was like, I know how much you love computers. The art that you make in here sucked, but it was kind of had this graphical. He's like, I think you should look into graphic design. I pirated Photoshop. I'm sorry, Adobe. I started teaching myself Photoshop. And then I went to this tiny private school in the middle of nowhere in Ohio for graphic design. And, thankfully, like my path. So anyway, all of that to say, when I was doing all that, I don't feel like we were in this kind of creative age yet. Like I still, my
Mm-mm.
parents were very supportive of me, but I feel like in the back of their minds, they're like, what the hell is he going to do with a graphic design degree?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now like I look at, and that's part of the reason why I'm so inspired by Miles. And like I see kids now, like I have friends that are 17 years old now and that are better photographers than I am now. You know what I mean? So I think, and we're in this age where creativity is being rewarded in amazing and epic ways, and there are actual paths forward to make it as an artist and like be I don't want to say successful because success is defined in many different ways by many different people, but like there are paths forward to be very
Right.
successful as an artist of any variety. So I think that's super exciting to me, and like just what the future holds, and just the creativity is being rewarded in such a way, because I don't feel like it was when I was kind of finding my start.
So I'm gonna try to do the impossible and pull these three threads together. One is I want to share something about social and getting to this point. Someone asked the question, how did the pandemic change your creative outlook, and what you just said. So I'm going to start with me. What you just said about social. So back, I mentioned that I had at one point like 2 million followers between Google Plus and
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, and I really wasn't doing too much on Instagram at the time. And the artists, it being time for artists, right? And
Mm-hmm.
taking the reins. I don't just see it as, oh yeah, now we have opportunities. I see that we are taking the reins. I see that there's an empowerment happening from where. So okay, so this was me. So me exploring whether, because I wanted to be a professional photographer, artist, um, forever, and I couldn't try to do the darkroom thing. It made me really really sick in junior high, and I had to stop, and I had to wait for digital, and that sucked. But I went and did other things. That's how I happened to do so many things, which is a whole other rabbit hole I don't want to get into. But anyways, my point is, so I experimented on Google Plus, and it kind of exploded. So I ended up with 2 million followers, then the 11 billion views of my work. It was all tracked by Google. That tracks everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
For whatever purposes. I'm not going to get into that. But anyways, 11 billion views because they were on Chromecast. Now, I did not get compensated for that, but trying to think if I signed an agreement. Somehow it was all one big puppy pile, because all of us photographers were exploring and learning and finding each other and creating shows and it was a beautiful time. It was like a real kickoff to the digital photography social world. Facebook upped their game at the time to show photos better because Google Plus was kicking their ass,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth. So it was a wonderful thing. Okay, so there I was. Oh my goodness, so I'm out there. Like, how did this happen? It was like, it was flattering, but I was like a little perplexed because I did not have a business model.
Hmm.
behind it. If I had, maybe I could have cashed in on that. As it
Right.
was, it didn't get me anything other than like notoriety. I think that might have been where I was seen enough to have amazing partners like I do now. But the point is, Google Plus went away, Facebook changed their whole thing, and the 11 billion views was eliminated in the process. So I was back to nothing.
Yep.
It was all taken away, all of it. And I was left with, I don't know, however many followers, I don't know, 500 followers on Instagram or something
In
like
the
that.
in the NFT world, not to interrupt you, I want you to keep going, but in the NFT world, we call that a rug pull.
Yeah. Oh, a total rug pull, total rug pull. I had no say over that. And I, you know, I saw it coming. I knew Google was kind of a 2-year, 3 max for anything they tried out company. So I knew it on some level it was coming, but at the same time, I didn't know how to prepare. I didn't really know if I could do a business. I really didn't know anything. So it happened, and then I had to start over. So I find social very suspect, and I wasn't about to give up my power again. No more, no more of that.
Yep.
So that's why I decided to own, my own thing and decide who and what I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up, which is why it's exciting to see your son and you and NFT and the power to the people in, you know, now is the time. Somebody is saying, Annette says, and now is the time. It is. It's now. It's go time. And that, I think all that happened before, it kind of jaded me, but it was smart. It's like I've had some really pivotal moments in my life that wised me up. I was, an actor for a long time, and I got a taste of the Hollywood thing, and I know the darkness that lives within all that firsthand. So, somebody's asked me, what did you take away from that? And I'm like, eyes to see and ears to hear.
Mm.
And the same thing with this thing, which is why I'm excited about I'm getting all chills, got a little spirit going here, because we have an incredible opportunity should we choose to show up for it, which you are, and it's why we're talking, and it's what I love about this. Um, I'm just reading some comments so that's my past, what you just said, and the opportunity that sits before us, whether it's through NFT, which could be the, the baby step of the bigger thing, or it could just be the step before something else. Who knows? But
Yep.
I do see artists being empowered who are creating with a certain vibration. I do see them being rewarded in a way I've never seen before.
Yeah. And again, back to it's hard to define success. Like everybody has a different definition. Obviously, probably the most widely used is monetary success, but we all know, even though we don't know, we know that even though that's kind of what we're all chasing, you look at
Yeah.
the most successful people and they're not happy, which is why I
Right.
think artists have this unique position where if you find whatever your success, whatever your happiness is, you need to grab a hold of that and then figure out how you can work within that, push that forward, grow that, and just continue to
Yeah.
create. I
Create,
would,
and
if
then
I didn't have, I could delete my Instagram and my Twitter and I'd still be off doing the same things that I'm doing right now because it brings
right.
me true joy. It's not like the social side, the showing of it, that gives me joy. Sure, it's nice to be praised. It's nice to know that other people are inspired by my work.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I just want to go make cool stuff and be happy and live a happy life. That's the goal. That's success
Right.
for me.
Right. And it takes, we used to say it takes ball sacks to stand by that vision.
Yeah.
I think we're being given an opportunity to choose that and believe in that and stand on that in a way that we haven't before. Those of us who were making those choices and learning the school of hard knocks and being primed for this moment had to sort of choose it quietly. Now I think it's important to step forward and be loud and proud about it because there are forces in the world that don't want that. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
pick a finger, so to that whole thing. Someone asked a question. Can you elaborate on what you mean by your own thing? Who said that? I don't remember who said that. What
I think that
I would
was in
like to.
own your
Oh, own your
thing.
thing. Oh,
Own your thing. You said that.
did I say? What was I saying?
You were
When I
talking.
said
You were
that?
talking about. You were talking about Google Plus giving you outs and how you decided to kind of own your thing. And I think that's probably the question, what you were talking about there, how
Right.
you
So what,
move
okay,
past that.
okay. Thank you. Thank you for being my memory. I need people for that. So what I meant by that was, okay, so I will attribute it to a learning curve. You know, I entered that completely innocent. You know, I wasn't in social at all. Um, I remember making a choice to be open. I also made a choice to, yeah, I made choices back then about who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up and what I was willing to put on the internet because I know nothing goes away. Um, but I gave a lot. I gave a lot and gave a lot up. I tried a lot of things. I was like, well, what do you like? I played that game for a while. Well, what, you know, kind of in an experimental way, but you know, it's kind of a nice stroke to the ego. Like, ooh, what gets a lot of likes? So I learned, you know, if you post a sunset with water and land, it's going to be, you know, triple the likes of, you know, a macro shot. And it goes back to a whole primal thing with humans and water and light and blah blah. And I know all the theories and everything, but I got myself into it. That's how I became known as a landscape photographer because I played the game just because I didn't know what else to do. I was playing the game of, oh, let's, because I was learning my photography too. And I loved those kind of shots. But those are the kind of shots that I got really known for. But where I started wasn't that. Where I started was more intimate, like I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to own my desires, own what I loved, not produce just for someone else. We all learn that lesson in one way or another. Some of you learn it sooner, you know, I learned it later. Okay. But I decided to own my vision. It didn't seem very popular, but had just gotten kicked to the curb. So I was like, fuck popular, pardon my language. But I just decided popular really held no real interest for me. So I was going to create what I loved and what I felt, you know, that I was being asked to do by the creator. So there you go. I believe
Yeah,
so.
that's
Annette
awesome.
says, I believe this too. So Annette says, I believe 2022 being the year of the new renaissance. I believe that as well.
Yep. Totally. Absolutely.
Honestly do. And I think we're
Yep.
ramping up to it right now.
Yeah, I think I'm very excited to see, you know, what's going to happen. I'm just excited, like, I mean, I'm excited to be inspired by what is going to happen because I know there's going to be some big pushes and into new realms of both like technology and art and where art meets technology. Like I think the sky's the limit there. And
Right.
yeah, and that's the whole reason I was interested in the whole crypto NFT thing to begin with is just because like I like new things. You know, I like things that make people uneasy at first, and I want to be there to see something. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
truly feel like this whole like this year, there are things that I saw a tweet about that's probably going to be in an art history book in like 50 years, which is crazy to think about. But like I really truly think that I think there's some things happening right now in the
Yeah.
digital art world that it's just mind blowing, and I love to see like photography kind of along for the ride because I feel like photography is kind of the black sheep of the traditional art world,
It
and
is.
I don't want to see it that in this new art world that we're building, right? I think we, you know, you said it best at the beginning, we paint with light and time. Like there's nothing that makes that any less than any other form of art.
See, that was the problem I was having in the beginning of NFT because all I was seeing were photographs where parts of it were animated or
Mm-hmm.
time lapse, which I love. It isn't that I don't like these things, and and I like them, but I kind of felt like, really, really, we have to
Yeah,
apologize for ourselves again.
right.
That's what I was actually feeling, which is why I was like, well, screw it. Then I don't want to play NFT because it isn't that I don't want to experiment in those realms. It isn't that. Although I don't need something else to put me behind a computer for more hours in the day. Honestly, I want to
Right.
be out in the world, out in nature, bringing that to people because people are bereft because they're sitting behind their effing computers all the time. So I feel like I have a job to do there. But I'm not going to apologize for the fact that it's a still image. If you lack the I get all fired up about this, and I go, if you lack the I'm getting myself a headache. Just like I'm getting all fired up about this, because I'm like, if you lack the imagination to understand what I've just done, is I've taken a spark of divine fire, and I've embedded it into the pixels of this image for you. If you don't get it, it's not my job to make you get it and put it in motion and put it to music. I'll do those things. I mean, I do like doing those things, but
Right.
NFT made me feel that. I got a little about that too in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Now I see, I'm seeing some movement now that I'm like, all right, maybe I'm willing to play. But that's the earlier question about own your thing.
Mm-hmm.
What I would have done in the past is go, oh, NFT is the newest thing. Then I better because I know how to do some of that, plotograph motion stuff. I know how to do that. I just don't enjoy it that much. And so I'm going to own the fact that I don't enjoy it that much. I might dabble and just see what the new tools are and see if I like it anymore. I don't know if I will or not. But I'm not going to compromise the fact of how powerful I think photography is when done in a quantum way with a certain purpose in mind about awe and vision and the creator, because it's all about that for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, I just said that publicly. Wow.
Preach it.
Preach it, baby. I'm on my soapbox. Which, oh, this is so, I'm watching the comments. I'm loving it. Annette, I love you. Yeah. So it's just, I just feel owning my thing. I keep going back to now finally I'm starting to have an answer to that question. Mm-hmm. I just feel like owning my thing is being really uncompromising. And in that funny way, having my middle finger ready to just put out in front of me anytime I need it in the best possible way. My mother used to say, Karen, that language. She'd get all offended, but it's not the lowest common denominator. Sometimes it's the suit of armor. It's time to armor up and shine the light, and your son is showing us the way.
Well, as long as it's not up to me, I'm okay with that.
Well, it shouldn't be up to any of us. It's if we have the right order in mind. The creator goes first and we follow. That's, I knew that all my life. I was raised that way. But at the same time, I had to take many other paths. And there's just a part of me that wants to say, thanks, I got it now. I'll figure this out on my own. And that never really ends well. It hasn't. I'm old enough and have tried enough things and have always experimented that I pretty much have run the gamut, and I pretty much know the order of how it works best. So that's another reason I think art and working with Light and Time and having this opportunity is right on target. My gosh, I didn't expect. You said, let's see where the universe takes us, and this is where it took us.
Yeah, no planning. That's my favorite kind of conversations. Like,
well,
never know where it's going to go.
That's what
I knew it was going to be fun with you. Like, regardless, of course, it's going to be fun with you. So
it'll be weird anyway. Fun/weird, unexpected, whatever.
Absolutely.
I know I got to cut you loose because I know you got a big day, but I want to thank you, and maybe we, I don't know, would you be willing to come back another time? Would you guys like it if Bryan came back and we talked some more? There's so many things we haven't covered. Plus, we could get into a lot. We could really get into a lot. We have some really fun upcoming projects that we'll be talking about in 2022. I used to read about these years when I was young, and I was like, how will they even say it? 2022. It turns out we say 2022. Who knew? Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we'll be talking more about that and doing some more of this, but I just kind of wanted to, bring some light and life into the holiday season because it needs it.
Yeah, no, I loved it. This was so much fun. It's always fun talking to you because I feel like I'm not great with words. I have a lot of ideas, but I'm terrible at articulating them. But somehow when I talk to you, I feel like you knew what to say to bring it out of me. I was on a podcast a couple of months ago, and I was in this creative rut, and one of my landscape photography friends has the landscape photography show. And so he asked me to be on, and he that's one of the few podcasts I actually listened back to because he just asked these very nonchalant questions, and it just got me going. Like I just went and talked about things that I hadn't planned on talking about, had never really talked about before. I like realized how, in that moment, I realized why being a photographer is so important to me because of something from my past. And it was like, it literally was like a therapy session. It was amazing. And I feel kind of the same way when I talk to you.
Tell everybody where to find that.
Oh, that's a good question. My
In
phone
fact,
is right in front of
well,
me.
let's tell them now, and then if you want, I can put it in the notes if you text it to me.
Yeah,
In
I'll text
fact,
it
so
to
that
you.
I can just copy paste it. We're going to tell everybody right now where to find Bryan, but then text me all the links you want me to put in the
For
comments
sure.
because I have to do
Yeah.
it right after right after I stop this. I got to do it, otherwise it goes away forever.
Yeah. You could probably in like the Apple podcast, just type the landscape photography show, Bryan Minear, or just type Bryan Minear and it'll come up with the landscape photography show. It's David Johnston is the guy's name who does it. So, but I'll text you the link too.
Cool. That'd be good. We'll give him a little ping there, and you as well. And so people can find you. We talked about it in the beginning. I meant to, we got so going in the conversation. I meant to periodically say, hey, everybody who's just joined, it's Karen Hutton and Bryan Minear. But I didn't do that. So tell everybody where to find you. I will do the same.
Yep. I am at Bryan Minear everywhere, BryanMinear. I'm most often on Twitter, sometimes on Instagram, though I often forget that this exists.
Yeah,
So.
I know. I know you do. I dragged you back into the dark world. I'm sorry. But we
Okay.
got to bring light. We got to bring light to this place too.
It was enjoyable. I loved it.
Yeah, me too. So, and I'm Karen Hutton. I'm at Karen Hutton on Instagram and Karen Hutton Photography on Facebook. But KarenHuttonArt.com. You're BryanMinear.com.
That's me.
That's us. We just use our names because it's easy.
It's just super easy.
I've had my KarenHutton.com since 1997.
Nice.
Might have been 96. I'm not sure. People are like, how did you get your own .com? I'm like, oh, about however many years ago that is.
My name's pretty unique. I feel like there's only one other Minear. I forget. Is it Mark? There's another Minear that's in like showbiz. He's like a producer. He produces things like American Horror Story or something. I don't think there's any relation there, but he's like my only competition in getting domains and stuff.
Is he a 1N? Is he a 1N Minear or a 2N Minear?
1N. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That is rare. Wow. That kind of makes me want to suit up. Okay. Well, I'm going to cut you loose. I'm going to cut you guys loose out of respect for your time. Love you guys. Thanks for joining us and taking this ride, Bryan. We got to do more of it. That's all there is to it. Okay.
Down.
All right.
See
Love
everybody.
you, man. Talk to you.
Love you.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.